Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a look into a really compelling and sometimes, let's be honest, quite provocative piece of online cultural commentary. We're going to be dissecting an excerpt from a YouTube video transcript. It's titled Philippine Times, hashtag Las Vegas, hashtag Pine, hashtag Pinoy, hashtag Filipino Life Filipina, 971-401-4722 for Black men, and it was uploaded on the channel Flourish. So our mission for this deep dive, it's really about going beyond just a summary. We want to unpack the specific claims, the motivations, the self-perceptions the speaker presents. We're trying to understand not just what is being said about, say, dating preferences or desired traits, but also how these ideas are woven together. It's a really interesting glimpse into how personal attraction gets framed within these bigger cultural narratives.
Indeed. And what's truly intriguing here, I think, is how the source material lays out these very explicit reasons and beliefs behind certain dating preferences, often quite directly, almost unapologetically. So we'll be exploring those stated motivations, the cultural context the speaker gives us, helping you, our listener, really grasp the specific viewpoints being shared and, importantly, the rationale offered for them. It's a clear example of a strongly stated position in, online discussions.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this. So the speaker dives straight in, no beating around the bush. They immediately address what they see as criticism from Black women. They say these women DM'd me and told me to stop talking about Black men, and then they assert very clearly that a lot of Filipina are interested in marrying Black men.
It's not exactly a gentle start, is it? It feels like a confident declaration right off the bat. What does this direct, almost confrontational opening tell us about the speaker's intent, maybe, and who they're really talking to? Yeah, that's a sharp observation, because it really signals a very specific rhetorical strategy right from the beginning. By immediately pushing back against what they perceive as criticism, the speaker isn't just like observing a trend, they're actively advocating for a particular viewpoint. They're carving out space for a specific narrative. It feels designed to rally support for their perspective, especially among Filipina ladies, who seem to be the clear target audience, while also kind of dismissing any opposing views. It sets this confident, maybe even directive tone for everything that follows.
Right. And within that advocacy, the speaker then zooms in on a very specific group within the Filipina community. They emphasize that Black men are super interested in marrying Filipina women, especially when you are a big Filipina. And they offer this reassurance to, quote, big girl in the Philippines who might feel overlooked. The speaker says, don't worry, my friend, because Black men or chocolate men love big girls, and the reason given, it's memorable. Big girls don't cry. That's quite a distinct connection being made there, isn't it? Between a physical trait and, well, a perceived emotional disposition. How do you interpret that specific link?
It's certainly unique and striking, yeah. That phrase, big girls don't cry, it moves beyond just physical attraction. It seems to imply a connection, like you said, between body type and maybe emotional resilience or temperament. The speaker seems to be suggesting that big girls are seen as embodying a particular kind of strength, maybe a steadfastness or emotional stability, which is then framed as highly desirable. You don't often hear such an explicit link between physical traits and these deeper psychological or emotional attributes in dating discussions. So it really stands out as a powerful part of the speaker's argument. It sort of repositions big girls, not just as physically attractive, but as possessing this valuable internal quality too.
Okay, so moving from physical traits and this idea emotional disposition, the speaker then lists off a very specific set of positive traits attributed to Black men. They claim that good Black men have a reputation of being romantic, seductive, caring, loving, and sweet. It's not just qualities, it's presented as an established reputation. How does the speaker use this idea, this concept of a collective reputation, to kind of bolster their argument about desirability?
Well, that emphasis on reputation is absolutely key, I think. It functions almost like social currency, or maybe cultural capital. By asserting that good Black men have this widely acknowledged positive reputation, the speaker isn't just giving their opinion. They're appealing to what they present as a collective understanding or an endorsement of these traits. This narrative paints this picture of like an ideal companion, suggesting these emotional and interpersonal qualities are the key drivers behind the interest they're talking about. It adds a deeper, maybe more compelling layer to the initial premise. It goes beyond just superficial attraction to a more holistic view of what makes someone desirable. It's like saying, this isn't just me saying this. This is widely known and valued.
Yeah, and it's worth noting they do add a little nuance. The speaker says, obviously not all Black men have these traits. But the general assertion, the point about this reputation, it still feels quite strong. It comes across almost like a rhetorical concession rather than something that really weakens their main point,
Definitely.
Now, this next part, this is where it takes a really pragmatic, almost strategic turn into what the speaker calls genetics. The transcript says Filipino women should marry black men only if they're good because you know why we want their genin. Genin, Genan. It seems like their word for, well, inheritable genetic traits, specifically traits related to talent. The speaker lists basketball strong, singing, dancing, and most of all, boxing. So
Yeah.
this really shifts the conversation, doesn't it? Away from just emotional qualities towards this more utilitarian idea of inherited abilities. What's your take on this framing, this desire for specific inheritable talents?
Uh-huh. The explicit articulation of wanting genian or genetic traits is quite a striking example of what you might call, well, maybe human capital investment through partner selection. It's quite something. This isn't just about emotional connection anymore, or even physical appearance in the usual sense. It's about a perceived transfer of abilities that seem to align with certain cultural values or aspirations. The speaker is very direct about identifying these specific talents, sports, performance arts as highly desirable things to essentially acquire through marriage. It suggests a really strategic approach to family, maybe even society, where partners are chosen not just for who they are right now, but for what they might potentially bring to future generations. It's a fascinating way to reframe what value means in a relationship, linking a personal choice to, well, generational enhancement.
And the speaker doesn't stop there, right? They then draw this direct contrast with another preference they mention, noting that many Filipinos, they marry white men because they want the beauty, and look how many crowns we get from beauty pageants. But then the speaker concludes, beauty will not last forever. Talents is what we need because talents and creativity will last for a very long time. That's a pretty powerful assertion about what has lasting value. It sets up a clear choice.
No, exactly. It creates this clear dichotomy. It suggests a strategic choice, like we were saying, in partner selection based on what qualities are seen as more enduring, more valuable over the long haul. The speaker frames it as a considered judgment. Okay, physical beauty might bring immediate recognition, social cachet, the crowns from beauty pageants. Right. But true, sustainable value, according to this view, lies in inherent, transferable abilities, creative potential. It really highlights how different cultural perspectives, or at least this speaker's specific perspective, prioritize different attributes in a partner. It's a very pragmatic lens to view marriage through. A partner chosen not just for their current attributes, but for the long-term benefits they're believed to bring to the family line, maybe even, as the speaker suggests, to the national identity.
Right. This idea of building a national reputation
Yeah.
through personal choices, especially marriage, it leads directly to the speaker's really striking assertion about Filipina identity itself. The speaker mentions Filipino national pride identity, saying, we must keep our repetition in the Philippines. Repetition, maybe meaning reputation, they continue. So you're probably talking about what repetition? Well, as we all know, Philippines is #1 with everything. We're #1 when it comes to talent, creativity, and beauty. This takes it way beyond just individual choice, doesn't it? Places it right in a larger national context. How are they linking these individual marriage preferences to this broader sense of national identity and global standing?
Yeah, this is where those individual choices really seem to intersect with a collective identity in the speaker's view. They're essentially suggesting that partnering with individuals who possess certain traits, like the talents attributed to black men, actively contributes to maintaining or maybe even enhancing the Philippines' standing on a global stage, specifically in areas like talent, creativity, and beauty. End point. It's an interesting assertion, the idea that personal relationships aren't just private matters, but can be seen as actions that bolster a collective national image. It definitely elevates the conversation from just personal preference to something that sounds almost like a national strategy, implying that individual choices in marriage have real implications for the nation's perceived excellence and reputation in the world.
And then, to sort of cap it all off, the speaker makes this really bold statement about Filipina identity, drawing a very specific comparison. They say, we Filipina are the black version of Asia. We can act like a queen at the same time. We can also think like a masculine. That is a strong claim. About a unique blend of traits, a really distinctive cultural positioning. What does this self-description, particularly the black version of Asia and this idea of embodying both queen and masculine qualities, what does that signify in the context of the whole argument?
That's possibly one of the most intriguing and maybe complex statements in the whole piece. That self-description, the black version of Asia, is a really powerful claim about a distinct cultural positioning. What could it signify? Well, perhaps a rejection of certain traditional beauty standards often associated with East Asia. Or maybe an assertion of a shared history of resilience, cultural richness, perhaps even challenging established power dynamics. It's open to interpretation. and then combining that with the ability to act like a queen, embodying grace, elegance, maybe social stature, while simultaneously being able to think like a masculine, suggesting assertiveness, practicality, strength. The speaker is really articulating this multifaceted, dynamic self-perception. It speaks to a desire, maybe to be seen as adaptable, strong, capable of embodying this wide spectrum of characteristics, defying simple labels. It's an assertion of a unique kind of hybrid identity. Filipinas, in this view, as powerful, versatile, and culturally distinct.
So after all that, what does this all mean for you, our listener? We've just delved into a really compelling and, yeah, often provocative viewpoint from this YouTube transcript. We've seen how one speaker weaves together personal preferences, perceived genetics, and national identity into this really complex argument about partner selection. It offered a very specific lens, didn't it? A way to view how attraction, perceived advantages, and cultural values can intertwine in these deeply personal, yet also culturally significant ways.
Exactly. What we've unpacked today is, I think, a powerful illustration of how identity, attraction, even this strategic view of genetics can all intertwine. And not just as individual choices, but as elements contributing to a broader self-perception and maybe even a national narrative. The speaker explicitly outlined their motivations from the appeal of big girls and perceived emotional stability right through to the pursuit of genes for talent. And they situated all of this within a broader context of Filipina identity and national pride. It really challenges us maybe to look beyond the usual narratives of romance and consider the multifaceted motivations that shape both individual and collective choices in dating and identity.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how online platforms become these spaces where such explicit, multi-layered rationales are presented, and how that reflects and maybe even shapes our understanding of global dating patterns and self-perception. It's not just about what people want, it's about why they say they want it, and the kinds of narratives they construct around those desires.
Indeed. So, something for you to mull over. Consider how these kinds of online discussions might be both reinforcing and challenging established narratives around dating, race, and cultural identity. How did these explicit, sometimes strategic framings of partner selection, like the ones we've explored today, how do they reflect the underlying values, maybe the aspirations of specific communities in our globally connected world? What does it really say about the evolving landscape of identity and attraction when such detailed rationales are shared so publicly?
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a look into a really compelling and sometimes, let's be honest, quite provocative piece of online cultural commentary. We're going to be dissecting an excerpt from a YouTube video transcript. It's titled Philippine Times, hashtag Las Vegas, hashtag Pine, hashtag Pinoy, hashtag Filipino Life Filipina, 971-401-4722 for Black men, and it was uploaded on the channel Flourish. So our mission for this